Okay, today we're going to talk about a video. We're going to react to a video by Filipina P and her Filipino attorney Gracie about this utang na loob. Not sure how you pronounce it, but it's basically personal indebtedness from the children towards the parents. And it seems to me that it's for life. Yeah, it just seems like a poor implementation of a social welfare system. But let's dive in and hear what she has to say, and I will chime in as we go. But a big disclaimer: I'm not an attorney, and I'm not trying to give advice here, legal advice. I'm just sharing my opinion and perhaps what kind of questions I would be asking a professional Filipino attorney when you're thinking about getting married or making a prenuptial agreement, etc. But I'm going to share my opinion on also how to deal with a Filipino on a day-to-day basis, not even being married. So let's dive in.
Is this law. I was so surprised because knowing we Filipinos, we're very family oriented. We always wanted to give back to the family.
Correct.
But I heard that there's a specific law that we need to support our parents.
So basically, the cultural thing supporting our parents is something enshrined in our civil code.
Right.
Yeah. Specifically, Article 195 of our civil code. Article 195 enumerates the people who are obliged to support each other.
Okay.
One of which is the parents and their legitimate children and the legitimate children of those children. Basically, parents and children has to support each other. It's a mutual obligation.
Okay.
So if you see it the way that when the parents are at the time of their life capable to provide support, then the parents can invoke support from their children.
Okay, so if you're a working adult now that and your parents.
Yeah, that's totally different from the Western system where parents are responsible for their children at least until they're 18 years old, and it doesn't go the other way. The children doesn't have to support the parents. Of course, it's always nice to be helpful towards your parents, but it's not required by law in the Western world that I know of.
Say, hey, you need to support us back because we need this amount of money every month. If I refuse to give that to them, will I be sued? Well, can my parents sue me for that?
The answer for that one is yes. Your parents can file a case for support in court invoking this provision of our laws.
Yeah, that's very unlikely, but I guess it's a law. I say it's unlikely because for two reasons. Number one, the Filipinos that you're dealing with, they probably don't know the law, so they don't even know they have a legal support for it. And number two, when you go and see an attorney, even in the Philippines, it's not free. You have to show that you can pay for the attorney, and usually the Filipino attorney is going to be like an American attorney. It's going to ask for a retainer, and Filipinos are poor people. They don't have money set aside for attorney's fees. They live week to week or month to month, and sometimes only day to day, and they don't have any money to go to an attorney to launch a lawsuit against somebody. Yeah, it's very unlikely. But how it affects foreigners or expats that are getting married to a Filipina or even dating a Filipina is numerous, and I'll get into that in a minute. But let's hear what else Filipina P and Gracie have to say.
Do they know that there's a law like
I don't know.
Is it known? I mean, well,
Now they know.
Yeah, okay.
Your parents now knows
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. I'll be in trouble. So really, it is a law. So
It is part of our civil code
Civil
So it's
code.
part of our laws.
Okay.
So basic laws. So under a civil code, 195 enumerates those people who are obliged to support each other, and 194, Article 194, define what
Yeah, it gets into a lot of legal talk here, but what I'm going to play next is a clip from another video from Filipina P where he talks about the utang loob and how this personal indebtedness is affecting the whole society of the Philippines. And it also affects expats dating or coming to the Philippines and perhaps getting married to a Filipino. So let's pull that up.
Since I've been doing interviews with locals and asking questions about whether they felt a duty to support their parents and families, a lot of you folks have been surprised and sometimes shocked at the way Filipinos seem determined to take whatever resources they can gather and turn them over to their parents, even when it's your resources we're talking about. You've heard the old saying that when you marry a Filipina, you marry her whole family too. Well, that's not just some cute or quaint notion that refers to close bonds within the family. It also means that once you marry a Filipina, you become a legitimate source of income in their eyes. After all, you're part of the family now too. And if your wife is responsible for the family, then by extension, you are as well. To you, that seems shady, greedy, unfair, and makes you feel as though you're just an ATM for her family.
Yeah, that's sad but true. Even if you don't get married to a Filipina, you will feel the effect of this. My current girlfriend is being pressured continuously for working and giving money back to the parents. And one time I remember she was looking for a job and she had some different options, and I was chiming in and giving my opinion which job she should go for, and including working for me as an assistant or a co-host on my YouTube channel. And the parents wanted her to work in a cashier's job, making. But the dollar amount doesn't mean much. It's what you can buy with those $20 that counts. Um, and the parents overruled anything that I or the girlfriend was looking at, and she had to take a job that she didn't really like. It was very hard work. Uh, I think more like 12 hours a day with one day off every 2 weeks. And on top of that, she was spending almost the same amount of salary that she was making per day in transportation costs and food for lunch and dinner. So she really wasn't bringing any or very, very small amounts of money back home to their parents. And I was questioning maybe this is the wrong job for her. Maybe she should find a different job that has a closer location to home and doesn't require any large outlays in food, that lunch and dinner. But that was not discussed or not agreed by the girlfriend or the parents. The girlfriend had to take the job that the parents had picked for her, and I to this day I don't know why their parents picked this job that's paying so little after transportation and food costs. I just don't get it. Maybe they're all thinking that she's gonna work hard and get a promotion and get a higher paying job. I just don't know. Or maybe maybe they're even looking at the prospect of hooking her up with a co-employee or co-worker in the company where she's working for a potential marriage. Just don't get it. It's really it seems nuts to me. I don't understand what her parents are thinking. And like I said, I offered her a paying job as a co-host or an assistant in my YouTube channel, and I think it would be a better option and less work, and that was overruled. That was not accepted. It's a mystery to me. But let's hear what Filipina P has to say.
With a price tag attached to the relationship. But what you may not realize is that there's a cultural tradition here that's at the root of this behavior. And it's gonna be really difficult to put an end to it. I'm talking about the Filipino tradition of utang na loob, which means indebtedness, and means that Filipinos owe their parents everything, and it has the effect of turning children into employees on a never-ending quest to provide more and more resources for the family. It can create so much pressure on a child to produce that it ultimately leads to deceptions, conflicts with their spouse, immoral behavior, and worse.
Yeah, it leads to a lot of different problems. It's kind of a reverse system in the U.S. where we do have some sort of social security. In the Philippines, I guess the government is too poor to really give much social security assistance. So this business about supporting elderly folks is kind of their way of a sort of a backwards method of taking care of the elders in their society. I don't agree with it, and I think children are losing out on their own future because they can't save any money. They can't build a real life for themselves because they send basically all their money to their parents. Of course, some families are different, but most Filipinos are stuck with this personal indebtedness, and it kind of makes me think perhaps this is the reason why the Philippines is so overpopulated. The parents are trying to save their own skin, so to speak, by having lots of children. Because think about it, if you have 10 children and you're out of work as an old person, you have 10 children to ask for assistance. It's not going to, well, it actually doesn't help the society, the Filipino society, when you're raising such big families and wearing down the infrastructure. But maybe the selfishness of people and the old folks are sort of pushing parents to having lots of children, large families.
In some cases, it becomes a form of brainwashing from which there is no escape. But where did this tradition come from? Why does it still exist? And how does it affect your relationship with your Filipina? Well, hang on tight as we dive right in. This is stuff you need to know. Can you imagine telling your kids every day as they leave for school, "Have a good day, honey, and remember, you owe me everything"?
Yeah, that must be a horrible feeling, growing up with that pressure. But it is easily avoided, and that is, of course, don't marry a Filipina. But even if you're just dating a Filipino, you're still going to run into this pressure that she's having from her parents, even though you're not married. It's always there, and if your Filipina is not working or not producing money on her own, you know who's going to be pressured to fork out some money. It's going to be you. You're as a foreigner, as an expat, you are the the source of money, and you can be requested to support your girlfriend, which is natural. And then their parents or her siblings are going to ask her to ask you for some money. So it's, even though you're not married, even though you're not involved directly with the parents, you are going to feel the pressure indirectly on a continuous basis. And I recommend, this is just my recommendation, not legal advice, that you should have a talk with your girlfriend, Filipina girlfriend, and figure out a way to kind of set boundaries and set kind of some simple rules regarding requests for money. I think that would be very wise. And you got to get used to saying the word no, N-O, for money requests. I mean, it's not just heartless, but it just becomes unmanageable unless you have a discussion with your girlfriend on how to manage your money and how to manage money requests. That just, I think it will become a big can of worms unless you nail it down and have a good serious talk with your Filipina girlfriend. But of course, if you ever do get married, think about what the benefits are to you, not just the girl. Obvious There are obvious benefits to the girl of security and living with a partner with a high source of income, perhaps a possibility of moving to the Western world with her husband and living there with the even higher potential for income earnings. Of course, but you should ask yourself, what are the benefits for you as a foreigner getting married to a Filipina in the Philippines? I don't think there's any benefits other than perhaps some immigration law benefits and perhaps some property right benefits for the foreigner here in the Philippines. Of course, it makes you wonder about marriage in general. Why did it come about in the first place? And I would guess that it came about from the old middle-aged Vikings or whatever country they were in. They figured tying the woman down as a piece of property or as a wife was a way to secure the girl away from other suitors or away from other guys who were looking for a partner. That's just my guess, but I would venture to to believe that was the reason why the whole institution of marriage came about. I don't really think we are naturally born to be married to each other. It just seems so weird in my book. I'm not against marriage, but I think a true love relationship can exist forever without a marriage, without a state getting involved, officially sanctioning the bond and two parties living together. I just don't see it. But that's a whole other discussion where it came from and the reason why it still exists.
Or when they grow up and get a promotion at work, and you say to them, "Great, more money for me." Now, in your world, any parent that would do this would seem like a greedy monster. But this is exactly the scenario that millions of Filipino children face every day. Not every Filipino family practices the tradition of utang na loob, but most of the economically disadvantaged ones sure do.
Yeah, I haven't met any families that don't practice this. And of course, you can easily avoid it by saying no to marriage. But like I mentioned before, even your single Filipina that you're dating, she's going to be pressured into producing money. And if you do get married, this is just my suggestion, not legal advice. Ask your attorney if there's a way to work something into the prenuptial agreement where you're protecting yourself a little bit from parents or siblings that are trying to pressure your future wife into giving them money. That would be one big question I would be asking. So I don't think it has an easy solution, but definitely, I before it gets to the legal stage of parents suing their children, I would definitely work something out and have a serious talk with your girlfriend, even before marriage, about this whole personal indebtedness to the parents.
Basically, it's the idea that from the moment a child is born, he owes his parents for his very life and every single thing they've done for him, including the clothes on his back and the food he's eaten since he entered this world. The
Wow.
child is expected to not only respect and obey his parents, but his mission in life is to fulfill their dreams and support them financially as well. Now, turning your kids into income producers isn't a new concept, and it's been employed by different societies across the globe for millennia. In places with no social safety net, children become your retirement plan. So, in order to secure yourself financially, you just have as many kids as possible and send them out in the world to gather resources for.
Yeah, she's spot on there. I think it's the Filipino retirement system, really. No offense. But I think it's a way for them to protect themselves, and that's why the Filipinos have such large families, frankly.
For you. They're expected to do the same thing with their kids, and the cycle goes on forever. Well, it's true in a technical sense that a child owes its existence to its parents. Does that mean that a child should automatically be burdened by the need to acquire financial resources for its parents and siblings? To me, that sounds an awful lot like indentured servitude, or worse, familial slavery. What this means is
Yeah, I'm sorry to say I don't have a solution to this societal problem of personal indebtedness to their parents. But definitely, as an expat, as a foreigner, have a big talk with your girlfriend or your future wife about how to deal with money requests from parents and siblings.
that in his youth, a child isn't able to save for himself or put aside money for his future family or his kids, which almost guarantees that he's going to end up using his own children as little employees as he ages. This system creates a vicious cycle of generational poverty and overpopulation because parents are encouraged to have even more children that they can't afford to go to work for them. Many of you have dated a Filipina with a poverty level job at a grocery store or at the mall, and you've seen how little money she brings home, and you wonder how she can possibly make ends meet. And then you see her sending money to her folks or buying school supplies for her little brother.
Yeah, not sure how they do it. My current girlfriend makes out of that she has to subtract taxes, she has to subtract transportation costs, food, lunch and dinner, and yeah, I just don't see the purpose for even working the job where you're basically making zero at the end of the month. I don't, but her parents seem to think it's a good thing and that she should continue.
And it just seems insane to you that she feels responsible for all this when she's barely surviving herself. You try to explain to her that she never asked to be born and that it's her parents' responsibility to provide for the children they chose to create. She hears your words and might even nod in agreement, but you know that her programming runs too deep and you're not getting through to her. This conversation has been repeated countless times between Filipinos and their Western partners, with no resolution except conflict and a bunch of hurt feelings. Utang na loob has to be one of the most contentious issues facing mixed couples, but there are much worse, much more sinister effects of this tradition. The constant pressure put on children to procure money for the family sometimes results in Filipinos becoming scammers in order to extract resources from the men who show interest in them.
Yes, the online dating websites are full of single Filipinos looking for money, and even worse, they turn into professional streetwalkers, and their parents look the other way when they find out their daughter is participating in such dark activities. Yeah, there's a lot I don't know about the Philippine culture, but this just takes the cake. It's very destructive for the entire society. I mean, the Filipino kids never get ahead because they can't save, they can't basically build their own future, and they have to give all their earnings to their parents, and they're always pressured for more, including when they start dating a foreigner. They're pressured to ask the foreigner for money. So please get some legal advice if you're getting married, and please have a serious talk with your girlfriend if you're not married about how to manage this pressure for money requests.